Last weekend was a rather grey, dreary, and overcast one, and it's also full of gale warnings. We could hear the wind blowing, and it just seemed like a day for cozy, or a weekend of cozy, I should say. So I thought I'd just take you through my day. My days are usually pretty consistent. They start with a cup of tea, and I know that might be violating Agnes Jekyll's idea of perfect tea time, but I still hear her description every time I make myself a cup of tea. The true spiritual home of the teapot is surely in a softly lighted room between a deep armchair and a sofa cushioned with Asiatic charm. 2 cups only, and these of thinnest china, awaiting their fragrant infusion, whilst the clock points nearer to 6 than 5, and a wood fire flickers sympathetically on the hearth. I honestly don't think there's a more heartwarming description of a teapot and tea time, and it just, I don't know, makes it all the more special. As we prepare some naan together, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about another book that I've been reading, and this one is Food is Culture by Massimo Montanari. It is a very interesting book that really makes you wonder about the history of food and how we associate certain foods with culture. I would like to read some notes that I've taken on the book. And one of the ones that really stood out to me, it was almost at the beginning of the book, that was basically saying that at one point in time, agriculture was considered a violent act against Mother Earth, and so fertility rituals were created in order to try and make up for the sin we were committing against Mother Earth. And I find that very interesting because today, when we think about agriculture done in a, I don't want to say nice, but in a responsible manner, or we think about homesteads, which are agriculture just in a small scale, we don't think of it as a violent act against Mother Earth. We think of it as honoring the earth and the growth of our own food and really just getting to know where our own food comes from. So I thought that was a very interesting definition, or I guess viewpoint, on what agriculture was. Another thing that really stood out to me almost from the beginning of the book is the following definition. What we call culture takes its place where tradition and innovation intersect. Tradition is made up of knowledge, techniques, values which were handed down to us. Innovation exists in so much as this knowledge, these techniques, these values modify the place of man in the environmental context. rendering him able to experience a new reality. A very successful innovation, that is how we could define tradition. Culture is the interface between these two perspectives. So, in other words, culture is made up of our traditions and our values, but also things we had to innovate in order to work with what we had. And I find that very, very interesting because I fully identify food as part of my Puerto Rican culture. And I know many of these recipes must have been adapted, like when I think about coquito, for example. Nowadays we use 4 types of milk, but pretty sure that when people started first drinking coquito, it was literally just rum and coconut milk because they were much more accessible and affordable than evaporated milk, condensed milk, and cream of coconut. So yeah, it's just very interesting to read about all these, I guess you could call them mini essays, but it's not, it's an entire book, but it's just the way it's divided and expressed. It's very interesting to me. And as a person who spends a lot of time in the kitchen, I have to say I greatly just recommend the book. It is more of a historical read, if we can call it that, but I think there's a lot to take from it and a lot to learn about this evolution of what we today call food and other what people would actually call artificial, because we use fire to make food. We don't just eat the raw ingredients. So anyway, I just thought I would share those little observations with you. And of course, as I think about food being a rich part of many cultures, I also think about crochet and crafting. Are there any crafts that are just native to where you live? I know that in Puerto Rico we have mundillo. It is very, very fine lace making. And while I was growing up, the crochet that I would see most often was Aunt Lydia's crochet thread with a very fine hook, and it would be used to make everything from hair accessories to clothes because we live in a tropical island and it's very hot, and it's not very practical to make things in wool. So please share any of these cultural crafty makes that you can think of, and I wish you a good day or a good night. Happy crafting, everyone. Until the next video.